We acknowledge that we gather in Honolulu, Oahu, on the homelands of Kanaka Maoli, the native Hawaiian people, within the Moku of Kona and the Ahu Pua'a of Honolulu. We honor the systems that sustain life, Maka to Makai, and the enduring relationships of native Hawaiian families and kupuna with this Aina, land, and Kai, waters. We pay respect to Kanaka Maoli elders and relatives, past, present, and emerging, and we commit to learning from and acting in reciprocity with the native Hawaiian communities who steward these lands and waters. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different type of episode. What you guys have probably found so far is my interviews with those that have helped my journey or interesting folks in the space along the way. Sometimes situations in my life or my career I find value in as I sit back and analyze them. That's the intention of today's episode. I'm going to do a little bit of a reflection. The topic today is going to be when leadership isn't enough, governance, ethics, and the choice to step back. There's a point in leadership where your toolkit, vision, grit, relationships stops being enough. Not because you yourself got smaller, but because the problem is bigger than a single person. Today is about that point when governance, ethics, and responsibility ask for a different kind of courage, the courage to step back. Welcome to Truth is Medicine. I'm John Reeves. Today's episode isn't about naming names. It's about accountability and learning, mine included. I'll share why I said yes, what I found, how momentum rose and then met the guardrails, and why stepping back can sometimes be an act of service in itself. Along the way, we'll talk about what leadership can do and what only governance can do. I wasn't job hunting when a recruiter called. I tell people all the time, when the cost of recruitment hits their eyes for the very first time, that the vast majority, above 65% of the permanent placements that are done, are for people who weren't actively looking for roles. I was running indigenous healthcare advancements, helping tribes leverage and expand sovereignty through healthcare, and as it happens at times, feeling a tad underutilized. With only 3 or 4 projects on my plate, the pitch was intriguing. He must have done his homework. John, what I have for you is an opportunity to help an urban health program reclaim its footing after a rough stretch. Fast forward to the first interview. That first interview surprised me. We had board representation in the room, senior leadership, and myself, a stranger to the organization. I had done my homework, and I asked the type of questions that I always ask. Things like, why are there multiple provider or billing identifiers? Do you really have services extending beyond authorized boundaries? Why is your revenue leaking? The answers I got back were thin, but it was the quiet part that spoke the loudest. The board had the reins. This was exactly my kind of puzzle. The misunderstood complexity, the limited systems mastery, the dysfunction that keeps good people stuck. We got a little further down the field, and I said yes. A few shuffled personnel moves, and I landed immediately. Even before the offer, I got to work. Analyzing first, listening second, mapping third, moving fourth. There was one caveat to this role, however. 28 days in, I'd be required to present a 120 plan for the entire organization. The recruiter thought it was unrealistic. He wanted me to push back, but I didn't. 80% of the fix, to me, is standard work. Understanding the problem, governance, controls, workflows. The rest is simply listening and stitching. Plus, I enjoy presenting to boards. So I said, let's leave it in. A PR firm circled an announcement date. I posted my own a few days earlier, and almost immediately, my phone lit up. One of the first calls came from a friend on the federal side of the table. What are you thinking? She asked. Do you have any idea what you're stepping into? I laughed. Nonsense is normal for me. I responded, same as always, fix the system and protect the people. Plus, I've met these people. They seem okay. After a brief pause, she ended with, well, if anyone can, it's you. Good luck. The first month was textbook. One-to-one interviews, walkthroughs, meticulous notes and recordings, leaders, middle managers, frontline teams, front desk, back office. Almost immediately, 2 realities appeared. The one that people described and the one the system actually produced. You see, we had tool sprawl and overlap, meaning multiple systems doing versions of the same thing, each with use this for that, not that rules, unclear IT direction, one-off app trials, and shadow purchases. HR foundations too thin, The handbook read basic on enforcement and accountability, and in a family-feeling organization, then enforcement usually comes with its own set of problems. Often, in our world, this invites things like nepotism, even when intentions are decent. Oddly enough, in my one-to-ones, nepotism actually surfaced. It surfaced early and often. Real or perceived preferential treatment in hiring, promotions, scheduling, and discipline. Whether or not data proved it, case by case, the benefit was there. And when you have been doing this as long as I have, you find that belief drives culture. Continuity gaps were everywhere. A key leader out for family reasons, entire functions outsourced, some workstations still holding boxes from former staff. Clinical data was fragmented across two ecosystems, legacy and new. Dual systems equal dual truths unless you declare a source of record, manage the migration, and standardize reporting, none of which was seemingly done. Revenue was constricted, unclear Medicare position, few private contracts, and narrow Medicaid footprint. The front door was confusing. One point of entry, but a fuzzy services catalog and routing map. E-signature was chaos, multiple platforms and access rules, access hygiene issues, badge and code discrepancies. My office phone had over 200 unheard voicemails. All of these issues were more than messy, and in healthcare, they're risk. Through it all, the nepotism drum kept beating in my notes, not as gossip, but as a risk signal. If people believe the system is tilted, they stop telling the truth to the system. When truth stops flowing, safety and money follow it right out the door. I framed my 120-day plan on one page, then layered detail underneath. It covered areas such as governance and controls. Simple things like clarify authorities, decision rights, and conflict of interest standards. Stand up a monthly risk, compliance, and ethics cadence. Publish a nepotism policy with teeth, disclosure, recusal, cooling off, and an appeal path outside the reporting line. For revenue and data, lock a single source of truth for clinical data and reporting. Freeze ad hoc extracts. Publish a payer expansion roadmap, Medicare, selected commercial, Medicaid by plan, triage denials by root cause, and fix them with the workflow, not only in the work queue. For people in safety, tighten onboarding, access, mandatory trainings, and incident response. Define incidents versus complaints. Use transparent hiring and promotion panels. Minimum posting periods and scorecards to reduce favoritism. Real or perceived. Tune hybrid schedules to operational need and patient access. For the systems and simplification, rematrix the tech stack. Retire duplicates. Choose one e-signature, one project tracker. Publish a 90-day decommission list and a 12-month roadmap. And for a front door navigation, build a living services catalog and call routing map. Publish staff contact lists and calendars. Set service level agreements for voicemail referrals, prior auth, and callbacks. My promise was simple. By day 120, we'd have fewer systems, clearer authority, safer handoffs, and a clear path for our money to become care. And a culture where outcomes can't be explained by who you're related to. You see, 80% of my consulting work is spent helping tribes turn sovereignty into better health. When I say healthcare is the new casino, I mean it can literally transform a nation when it's done with rigor and heart. I've seen tribes establish tribal self-insurance plans, build medical schools, acquire failing community hospitals, investments that lift the health and wealth of entire communities. This urban organization has that opportunity. To date, it had been fumbled. I was optimistic that we could get it all back. Momentum came, always felt calmer. The story got clearer, why, began to meet the how. Staff started to hope. But I've been around long enough to know that momentum isn't the same as progress. Momentum is just motion. If governance doesn't strengthen alongside operational improvements, pressure eventually reveals what's underneath. And if systems or issues like perceived nepotism aren't addressed structurally with policies, processes, and transparency, they don't go away. They just resurface with different names and faces. That's what started to happen. The early welcome, the hope for a more sound operation began to thin. I've seen this pattern before, which is why I typically steer clear of direct employment control and keep HR decisions inside clear, documented frameworks. But even the operational fixes I could execute quickly started losing ground to something deeper. A power dynamic I couldn't see clearly at first, but could feel in how decisions moved throughout the system. Resolutions, minutes, and key decisions were tightly guarded. Approvals would be recorded in board meetings, but the operationalization, the actual implementation with owners, timelines, and accountability lagged or never arrived. Instead, new resolutions would surface that seemingly designed more to reassert control than to unlock execution. The effect was predictable. Staff whiplash, leadership accountability without corresponding authority, and a quiet erosion of trust. I realized I was going to have to teach my way through this. So I started building primers into my monthly board reports. Short, practical lessons tucked into the narrative, one paragraph at a time. I laid out concepts like guardrails versus vehicle. The framework is simple. Guardrails are the bylaws, statutes, policies, and resolutions that define what's possible and what's required. The vehicle is the organization, its people, processes, and operations. Boards set the guardrails and the destination. Management drives within those boundaries. You can't drive the guardrail, and the guardrail can't drive the car. I also kept clarifying a critical sovereignty nuance. We are a corporate entity, not a tribal government. Some authorities and protections don't automatically apply just because we serve Native people. You can't do X, Y, or Z unless you formally qualify or partner in a way the law recognizes. That isn't resistance, it's risk. It's risk management and safety. To make governance decisions clear, I added simple checklists to the board packets: funding source clarity, legal or contract basis, mission fit, fiduciary duty, local impact statement, and documentation with the sunset for review. The responses were predictable. We've always done it this way. Legal will sort it out. Just put it in a resolution. On paper, boxes got checked. In practice, the same pattern continued. Approvals without operationalization, and new resolutions that seem to reassert control rather than unlock execution. One pattern kept surfacing that illustrated this governance tension. Board approvals, directing support to initiatives, serving tribal communities beyond our city, sometimes even beyond our state. The stated rationale made sense on its face. Our relatives, they do come from many nations. Displacement is real and connected to homelands matters. I understood that perspective, and I respected it. But from the operations seat of a financially constrained organization, these decisions became harder and harder to explain. Team members often ask fair questions. What problem are we solving? Which dollars are we using? What's the impact on local access and staffing? In some cases, we were directing scarce, discretionary resources to communities that didn't even know we existed. I frame this as a governance choice, not a moral judgment, and definitely not a legal conclusion. In my board packets, I proposed a simple rubric for any out-of-region commitment. Confirm funding source terms, allow the use, the statute, grant, or agreement that provides authority. Explain mission fit, fiduciary duty, publish a local impact statement and mitigation plan, and document it all with an MOU, reporting requirements, and a review date. Sometimes the answer came back: we've always supported them, or this aligns with who we serve. I respect that view of belonging, but operationally, without a rubric and documentation, these choices continuously strain morale and clouded priorities. We needed decisions the local team could explain with a straight face to the people standing at the front door. The straws kept piling up, one after another. The kind of dysfunction I've walked away from organizations for showing, but I couldn't walk. Not yet. The names of the people became my anchor. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about them. The relatives who don't have the luxury to leave. The good staff still showing up for their people. In an urban center, there aren't many places for our relatives to receive care in a setting that understands them. For all its thorns, this organization was a diamond in the rough. That's what kept me present. I found an odd kind of comfort in the chaos of daily operations. The quick hallway huddles, the pop-in questions between patient visits, the small moments of actual healthcare work. Almost always, these conversations followed some confusing directive. Something decided elsewhere, lacking context, now rippling through the organization and landing in someone's lap. Almost never on my side of the house. 99% of the time, it was outside my formal control. That became my reality. Be the translator, steady the weather, protect the staff's dignity, and then go pull another weed from a root system I can't actually access. Hope on the inside, weeding on the outside, while the maze stayed stubbornly the same. My first resignation, the informal one, came shortly after a second senior returned from leave. The trigger wasn't dramatic. It was symbolic. A fleet asset that should have been returned wasn't. Compliance concerns documented. Evidence clear, yet in my view, disregarded. It wasn't about the vehicle. It was about what the vehicle represented. Decisions that normally sit with the CEO being redecided underneath me were quietly undone after the fact. Phantom leadership, an unofficial authority layer beneath the formal org chart that could override executive decisions without documentation or accountability. Without aligned governance, I would not lend my title to normalize that risk. I tendered my resignation. I called the board on a Friday and said, this isn't working. I remember this clearly. In 82 days on the job, I have done healthcare-related work for a total of 3 days. That's right, 3 days. I was recruited as a healthcare leader to fix healthcare operations. 79 of those 82 days were spent doing someone else's job or navigating static that had nothing to do with healthcare or me. I could go into details, but that wouldn't be the professional thing to do. The conversation went better than I expected. They had plans to split the organization into 2 entities, one for healthcare, one for community programs, and they told me just stick to the healthcare. That's why we hired you. That's what you're good at. Let's keep you where you're comfortable. It made sense. I agreed to withdraw my resignation. The announcements went out. The communications followed. I took a breath and tried to step back from the nonsense, to heal, and to refocus on the work I was actually hired to do. But that reprieve lasted about as long as it took me to say it. Out of left field came a notice about our payroll platform. First a call, then a letter, stating that absent resolution services could be discontinued in 30 days. To my understanding, at the time, neither the call nor the letter routed to me as CEO. They landed elsewhere. I didn't see the deadline until a week later, which meant the window to act had already shrunk by 7 days. Confirmed everything I'd been concerned about. When decision paths blur, even the oxygen lines, payroll, benefits, the things people actually depend on, end up on a shortened clock. I did what any responsible CEO would do. I leaned on relationships. I had a trusted outsourced HR and payroll partner who had been carrying significant HR responsibilities for the organization. Industry standard processes, clean documentation, dependable execution, and a system showing strain everywhere else. That predictability mattered. To their credit, they helped ensure our people didn't miss a paycheck, even as that phantom layer floated a couple of last-minute alternatives through what I assumed were back-channel relationships. By then, I'd learned to navigate around the noise and just do my job, make decisions, and make moves for the good of the people and the team. The transition went off surprisingly well, all things considered. There were board theatrics, sure, but by that point, it read more like a comedy than a drama to me. I want to take a minute and send a quick shout-out to that benefits team as well, because they deserve recognition for what happened next. Before my arrival, someone had placed the organization under a PEO, a professional employer organization arrangement. They probably got caught up in the sales pitch, the whole, you won't have to worry about anything, we will do it all for you. For those not familiar, that meant when payroll shifted, benefits administration and reporting portals shifted with it. Everything moved together. We executed a complete benefits and payroll overhaul in roughly 20 days. The benefits folks did outstanding work as a gesture of goodwill. No strings attached, even though the phantom governance layer later pulled the rug out from under them. That's a story they'll have to tell. Being a CEO is about relationships. There's a reason at this stage in my career I can call people I've worked with in the past, sometimes 20 years ago, and they still pick up. It's about how you treat them. It's about keeping your word, protecting their interests, and showing up when things get hard. That said, this quick detour from my normal path will likely cost me a few of those relationships for reasons entirely outside my control. As a CEO, a leader, or even a board member, your word is your currency. It's only as strong as your ability to keep it. When systems around you create situations you can't control, that currency loses value, and at times, through no fault of your own. That hurts, but it's also the cost of stepping into situations like this. I stayed long enough to shore up payroll and benefits. I made sure the team was covered and the organization had a reliable way to pay its people, that the team members had active benefits, and then I formally resigned, for good this time. There's a lot more to this story that I'm saving for a future reflection. So until then, you're going to have to use your imagination. But let's just say that truth, while seemingly static and always defined, is actually experienced through perspective. We all observe situations through our own lens, shaped by our position, our information, and our interests. Some perspectives align more closely with documented facts than others. And in complex situations, people naturally emphasize the aspects that support their position. In any organizational challenge, there are lessons available for everyone involved. One lesson that often emerges in difficult situations is the value of narrative, how the story gets told. And that's worth exploring here because it's a common leadership trap. Controlling narrative can feel like a solution when facts are uncomfortable, but I've learned it's a high-risk, low-reward approach. Here's why. A narrative only holds when it's not contradicted by documented facts or undermined by lost credibility. It may provide temporary stability, but when facts emerge through audits, whistleblowers, routine reviews, or simply the passage of time. And when credibility erodes through inconsistency, the foundation weakens. The more sustainable path is to align your story with facts from the beginning. Acknowledge complexity, honesty, and build credibility through consistency. That's harder work up front, but it creates solid ground that doesn't shift when scrutiny comes. As leaders, we get to choose. Do we spend energy managing the story, or do we spend it addressing the underlying issues? One provides temporary comfort. The other builds lasting trust. I finally made that decision to step back permanently. The first thing I felt was guilt. Heavy, suffocating guilt. I let this role consume me in ways I hadn't allowed in years. It affected me. It affected everyone around me. I set aside boundaries I'd spent a career building. I let people treat me the way I let people treat me early in my career. The version of myself I thought I'd left behind. And that brought forth a whole closet of skeletons I thought I'd already dealt with. Turns out I hadn't. I had to do the work. The real, uncomfortable, sit with yourself kind of work. It took weeks, but I did it. And then came the relief. The kind of relief that feels like oxygen after you've been holding your breath for far too long. Clarity that comes when you stop trying to be the solution to a problem that doesn't want solving. Soon, I was at peace, and my time shifted. People from that organization who still reached out, the good ones, the ones still fighting for the mission, I made myself available because the work didn't stop just because I stepped away. The need didn't disappear. To those that stayed, if you're one of those staff members still there, still showing up, still caring for our relatives, I want you to hear this. Even when you think there isn't another door, at times, one magically opens. I know how it feels. I know the weight. As much as my ego wants to see some grand uprising, some dramatic change, I'm not that selfish. The relatives who receive care still need people to care for them. I am but one person. You are 242,000 strong. I know it doesn't seem like things will change, but they will. They always do. Keep the faith. Remember why you show up each and every day. Make our relatives strong. You have a power I don't have. The power of presence, of daily commitment, of being there when it matters most. I hope you continue using it. And know this, I have not forgotten you. My goals as a person have not changed simply because I got out of one vehicle. There are good things to look forward to. Keep the optimism. Good things will indeed come in time. If you're a leader listening to this and something in the story feels uncomfortably familiar, I need you to hear this too. Sometimes the right move is to step away. We good leaders, we take so much upon ourselves. We absorb the chaos. We steady the ship. We protect our people. We carry the weight. And we do it because we care, because the mission matters, because the people matter. But we need an outlet. Otherwise, we get consumed. I want to serve as that outlet. If you're a leader who needs to reach out and simply share, I'm here for it. Sometimes we just need to know that we aren't alone, that someone else has stood where we're standing and understands the weight of that moment when you realize your leadership isn't enough, not because you're failing, but because the problem is structural. You're not alone. For me, stepping back wasn't quitting the work. It was refusing to lend my name to a pattern I couldn't ethically stabilize without aligned governance. That's not failure. That's responsibility. Leadership convenes, inspires, interprets reality, and absorbs shock. Governance authorizes, audits, and corrects, and protects the mission from us all. When they align, people are safer, money is cleaner, culture is credible. When they don't, staff absorb moral injury, communities lose faith, and narratives of nepotism and favoritism fill the vacuum where fairness should live. But here's the thing I need you to hold on to, especially if this story discouraged you. There is always someone, somewhere, who believes in Indigenous healthcare sovereignty. Always. The work continues. Good things are coming. All is not lost. 98% of my work is helping tribes turn sovereignty into better health. I've seen it work. I've watched tribes build insurance companies, stand up medical schools, acquire hospitals, create care delivery systems that lift the health and wealth of entire nations. When healthcare is done with rigor and heart, it transforms communities. This one situation, this one organization, doesn't change that truth. If anything, it reinforces why the fundamentals matter, why governance must be strong, why fairness must be infrastructure, why chain of command protects everyone, why knowing when to step back protects the mission, the broader mission. Indigenous healthcare, sovereignty, self-determination, care that honors our people and our ways. That mission is alive and well. And I'm still in it, just in a different vehicle. If this story has helped you see something more clearly about your own situation, about the difference between leadership and governance, about when to step forward and when to step back. Share it with someone else wrestling with a hard line. And if you're a leader carrying weight, you're not sure if you can keep carrying, go ahead and reach out. You can reach out to me at truth@indigenous.health. May we build systems worthy of our people. May we have the courage to set boundaries that protect the mission. And may we always remember, stepping back with integrity serves the work better than stepping forward without it. Keep the faith. Good things are coming. Until next time.